From a deserted ship to possible aliens, these are 10 mysteries that cannot be explained. Number 10. The Dyatlov Pass Mystery. In 1959, 9 hikers were found dead at the Dyatlov Pass in the Ural Mountains of Russia. Igor Dyatlov assembled a group of 10 people to go hiking and skiing in the Ural Mountains in the former Soviet Union. The group, including 8 men and 2 women, were on a mission to complete the 190-mile journey to qualify for their Grade 3 hiker certifications, the highest possible certification at the time. On January 25th, they set out for their hike in the cold snow. Yuri Yudin immediately felt sick and turned back for home. He had no idea at the time that that decision to return saved his life. The 9 others continued on the hike. 6 days later, they reached the valley that would later become the Dyatlov Pass. They stashed extra supplies for their return trip. The next morning, they began their ascent but were pushed off their intended route by an intense snowstorm. The group had to find a new campsite and decided to camp on the mountain's exposed slopes rather than retreating to a more protected area. That night, temperatures dropped as low as -40 degrees Fahrenheit. The group never arrived at the rendezvous point at the planned time, so search and rescue teams were sent to find them. 3 weeks later, the ruined camp was located. They found the tent half covered with snow, torn open from the inside, and vacated. All of the group's belongings, including essential items such as shoes, were still there. A line of footprints were visible that showed 9 people walking away at normal speed, but some were wearing just one shoe or were barefoot. A third of a mile away, evidence of a campfire was found along with the remains of 2 group members who were mostly naked. Nearby, 3 more bodies were found frozen in poses that made it seem as though they were on their way back to camp. It wasn't until months later, when the weather warmed up, that investigators found the other bodies, whose remains were found within a few dozen feet from the campfire. They were lodged in a creek bed. Russian authorities never released a statement, but have recently said that they are using new technology to attempt to solve this case. Number 9. Area 51. In Nevada, the very existence of U.S. military base Area 51 was unconfirmed until 2013, when the CIA were obligated to respond to a Freedom of Information Act request. The official story is that the site is an airfield used to test aircraft such as the U-2 spy plane, A-12, and F-117 Nighthawk. Public satellite images show little more than hangars, runways, and buildings. For years, people have reported UFO sightings in the area. The site itself is extremely restricted, with top security clearance required. People with authorization to visit Area 51 are transported from Las Vegas via unmarked planes with the codename Janet. The secrecy surrounding Area 51 sparks continuous rumors that the government uses this site to conduct tests on aliens and reverse engineer technology from UFOs. In the late 1980s, a man named Bob Lazar alleged he worked at the site examining a recovered alien spacecraft. Additional theories about what Area 51 is used for are nearly as popular and include development of weather control techniques, research on time travel, meetings with extraterrestrials, research on teleportation, and secret government activities. Due to extreme secrecy, the world may never know what is really going on at Area 51. Number 8. D.B. Cooper. On November 24th, 1971, Dan Cooper was a passenger on Northwest Airlines Flight 305, a 30-minute flight from Portland to Seattle. Passengers and flight attendants described him as a man in his mid-40s, dressed professionally in a dark suit, with a neatly pressed collared shirt, black tie, and a mother-of-pearl tie clip. He took his seat, lit a cigarette, and ordered a bourbon and soda, paying cash. Shortly after takeoff, he handed a note to the flight attendant. She assumed he was giving her his phone number and ignored it. "Miss, you'd better look at that note," Dan Cooper told her. "I have a bomb." The note's contents are part of the mystery, since Cooper took it back after she read it. His demands were $200,000 in negotiable American currency, which would be worth $1 million today, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle to refuel the plane on arrival. The flight attendants shared the demands with the captain. The airline's president authorized full cooperation. The passengers on the plane had no idea what was happening and were told that landing was delayed due to mechanical difficulties. At 5:39 p.m., the plane landed, an airline employee delivered the cash-filled backpack and parachutes, and Cooper allowed all passengers and 2 flight attendants to leave the plane. While refueling, he outlined his plan to the crew. a course towards Mexico with another refueling stop in Nevada. 2 hours later, the plane took off. When the plane landed in Reno, he was missing. None of the parachutes were found and the money was never used. 9 years later, a young boy in Oregon found several packets of the ransom money identified by serial numbers. This led to a thorough search of the area for Cooper, but he was never found. A parachute strap was found in 2017 at one of his possible landing sites. Hopefully, more information will be uncovered soon. Number 7. The WOW signal. Two physicists from Cornell, Philip Morrison and Giuseppe Cocconi, imagined how an intelligent alien civilization might signal Earth. They speculated that it would come via radio transmission. Their prediction came true 18 years later. Jerry Eman was a volunteer researcher for the Big Ear Radio Observatory by SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, at Ohio State University. He scanned radio waves from deep space in search of a signal from an intelligent life form. On August 15, 1977, Eman saw his measurements spike from a loud signal that lasted 72 seconds. It appeared to have been transmitted from the constellation Sagittarius, approximately 120 light years away. Eman wrote the words "WOW" on the printout of the signal, earning it the title of the WOW signal. Every attempt to locate the signal again has failed. Number 6. The Pollock Twins. In 1957, two sisters, Joanna, age 11, Jacqueline, age 6, and their friend Anthony were killed in a tragic car accident as they walked to church in Northumberland, England. Their parents, John and Florence Pollock, were grief-stricken and prayed their daughters would come back. A year later, twin girls Jennifer and Jillian were born. A series of uncanny similarities between the twins and their dead sisters ensued. The younger twin had birthmarks on her body and face in the exact same place as the younger sister, Jacqueline. At the age of 2, the girls asked for toys that were previously owned by Jacqueline and Joanna, which the twins had never seen before. At the age of 4, they started to recognize places they had never been to before. Once they pointed to a school they claimed to be their own and shared memories of playing in the playground. It was the school that Jacqueline and Joanna had attended. A psychologist, Dr. Ian Stevenson, studied the case and determined that the twins were the sisters reincarnated. When the girls turned 5 years old, the series of memories vanished. They went on to live happy, normal lives. Number 5. Bella in the Witch Elm. On April 18, 1943, 4 boys were poaching in the Hagley Wood, England, and found a witch elm tree. 15-year-old Bob Farmer climbed up to check the tree for birds' nests, but instead uncovered a ghastly mystery. Nestled inside the hollow opening of the tree trunk was a woman's skeleton in its entirety except for one missing hand. Terrified, the boys swore secrecy and fled. However, the youngest was so scared that he told his father. The police investigated and found the body just as it was described. The woman's hand and clothes were found buried nearby. The locals speculated that the victim was executed by black magic and that a witch's coven and Satanists were in the nearby area. Police determined that the bones belonged to a woman aged 35 to 40 who had been put, while still warm, into the tree where she had been hidden for at least 18 months. The locals named the unidentified woman Bella and spray painted all around the region, "Who put Bella down the witch elm?" No one ever came forward with information. Bella's identity and her death remain unsolved. Number 4. The City of Atlantis. In the 4th century BC, Plato, the Greek philosopher, told the story of Atlantis, a land that existed in the Atlantic Ocean and had conquered much of Europe and Africa in prehistoric times. In the story, the Athenians fought back against Atlantis in a battle that ended with Atlantis vanishing beneath the waves. While no serious scholar believes that this story is completely true, some have speculated that the legend could have been inspired by real events that happened in Greek history. One possibility is that it could have been inspired by the Minoan civilization, which flourished on the island of Crete until about 1400 BC. Although Crete is in the Mediterranean rather than the Atlantic, Minoan settlements suffered significant damage during the eruption of a volcano in Greece, Terra. Archaeologists found that the Minoans were later overcome and forced to join with the Mycenaeans, who were based on mainland Greece. We will likely never know the truth about Atlantis. Number 3. The Mary Celeste ship. On November 7th, 1872, the Mary Celeste, a 282-ton brigantine, set sail from New York Harbor to Genoa, Italy. On board were the ship's captain, Benjamin S. Briggs, his wife, Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, and 8 crew members. Less than a month later, on December 5th, a passing British ship named Dei Grazia spotted the Mary Celeste at full sail adrift 400 miles east of the Azores, with no sign of the captain, his family, or the crew. Aside from water in the hold and a missing lifeboat, the ship was undamaged and it was loaded with 6 months' worth of food and water. A look into the history of the Mary Celeste adds to the mystery. There had been a series of mishaps, including the sudden death of its first captain, a collision with the ship in the English Channel, and a captain that deliberately ran it aground in Haiti as a part of an attempted insurance fraud. Meanwhile, one of the most famous maritime mysteries in history remains. Why would an experienced captain abandon a perfectly sound ship? Theories over the years have ranged from mutiny to pirates, to an explosion caused by fumes from the 1,700 barrels of crude alcohol in the ship's hold. According to the last entry in the ship's log, made that morning, Mary Celeste was within sight of the Azore island of Santa Maria, 500 miles from where it was found 9 days later. Number 2. Oak Island Money Pit. For over 200 years, stories have circulated that Oak Island, off Nova Scotia, Canada, held a money pit filled with buried treasure left by the pirate Captain William Kidd in the late 1600s. Numerous expeditions costing millions of dollars have searched the island for lost treasure. Even Franklin D. Roosevelt took an interest. In 2018, the first and only treasure was found so far. A 500-year-old red gemstone brooch was discovered with a handheld metal detecting device. The rhodolite garnet has at least 11 facets and has been speculated to be from the treasure of the last Queen of France, Marie Antoinette. Other interesting finds have included human bones and pearlware pottery. Number 1. The Disappearance of Flight 19. On December 5th, 1945, a routine training flight for 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers took off from a naval air station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. These planes, collectively known as Flight 19, were scheduled to perform a 3-hour exercise called Navigation Problem Number 1. Their triangular flight plan called for them to conduct bombing runs at a place called Hens and Chickens Shoals, turn north and fly over Grand Bahama Island, then fly back to base. The flight's leader, Lieutenant Charles C. Taylor, was an experienced pilot and veteran of several combat missions in World War II's Pacific Theater. At 2:10 p.m., Flight 19 took off. Shortly after the patrol turned north, something very strange happened. For reasons unknown, the flight leader became convinced that his compass was malfunctioning and that the planes had been flying in the wrong direction. "We must have got lost after that last turn. Both my compasses are out and I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale," Taylor said, sounding anxious. "I'm over land, but it's broken. I'm sure I'm in the Keys, but I don't know how far down." Taylor was persuaded to turn around, but shortly after 6 p.m., he canceled the order and once again changed direction. "We didn't go far enough east," he said, still worried that he might be in the Gulf. "We may as well just turn around and go east again." His pilots seemingly argued, and some investigators believe that one plane broke off and flew in a different direction, but most followed their commander's lead. Flight 19's radio transmissions soon became faint. When fuel started to run low, Taylor was heard preparing his men for a potential crash landing in the ocean. "All planes, close up tight," he said. "We'll have to ditch unless landfall. When the first plane drops below 10 gallons, we all go down together." Minutes later, the Avenger's last radio communications were replaced by static. The Navy immediately sent search planes to locate Flight 19. At around 7:30 p.m., 2 PBM Mariner flying boats took off from Fort Lauderdale. 20 minutes later, one of them suddenly vanished off the radar. The Mariner and its 13 crewmen were never seen again. At first light the following day, the Navy dispatched over 300 boats and aircraft to look for Flight 19 and the missing Mariner. The search party spent 5 days covering more than 300,000 square miles of territory with no success. "They just vanished," Navy Lieutenant David White later recalled. "We had hundreds of planes out looking, and we searched over land and water for days, and nobody ever found the bodies or any debris. A Navy Board of Investigation argued that Taylor might have confused the Bahamas for the Florida Keys after his compass malfunctioned, but could find no clear explanation for why Flight 19 had become so disoriented, and eventually attributed the loss to causes or reasons unknown. Do you have an unexplained mystery that didn't make our list? Tell us about it in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. New content is posted every week. Until then, thanks for watching Best Top 5s.